I'm Rose Dowd. I think most of you have probably met me. I'm the employment specialist here at the Regional Center of the East Bay. And I've been here for about 18 months, kind of spearheading our Employment First movement. And today I just wanted to share a little bit about where we've been and how it's going. I think it's really timely. I'm really excited to be here because of its being National Disability Employment Awareness Month. In that same token, I had the absolute privilege of seeing John Elder Robison speak yesterday with one of our community partners and future employer of our clients. So it was really exciting. Do you guys know who John Elder Robison is? Anyone? No? Okay. He is an author. He wrote a book called Look Me in the Eye, and another one called, he actually wrote four, but he wrote another one called oh shoot, I'm so nervous. I just forgot. What's the name of it? It'll come back to me. I'll circle back to that. But he wrote these books. He wasn't diagnosed with autism until he was in his 40s. And now he is a contributor at the NIH for autism research and just does a lot of public speaking engagements about autism at work and is an incredible advocate. So they invited him to speak, and it was very empowering. I am actually still a little bit emotional about it because I really felt like that is the future. He was to be in a group that was not just, us, the advocates, the people who kind of are on the ground floor of this work, but to be in a community of people who were ready for that and just like, yeah, how do we diversify our workforce and how do we get there from here and create that hiring mechanism was very exciting for me. So I wanted to talk a little bit about some of our programs that have been increasing employment for regional center clients. One of them is our paid internship program. This data comes from the Employment Development Department. And so from the first year that we had our paid internship program, we had 60 people participate in the paid internships. And then last fiscal year, we had 81. And so far this year, we already have 24. So we are on trend to exceed what we did last year. And just a note about that, a lot of our paid internships have been happening through the Project Search model. In 2016, when we first started doing paid internships, we had 2 Project Search sites. They were both in Alameda County. And now, barely 2 years later, we have 4 official Project Search sites plus 2 sites that are lookalike Project Search models. So we're really able to increase the people that can participate and benefit from these programs. So it's really exciting. The other program is the Competitive Integrated Employment Incentives. And again, first year we had 30 people participate. And at that time, a note on just the growth there, at that time we had 3 vendors who participated in that program. So those 30 people were placed just through those 3 providers. And last year we placed 79 people and we had 9 providers participate. Some of them were pre-existing employment providers, so not necessarily all of them were newly vendored, but just the amount of growth that's happening is exciting. And so far this year, only 3 months into the fiscal year, we already have 19 placements.
I think that's exciting.
It's really exciting. Thank you, Sandy, for meeting me where I'm at here. So again, just some other data. I'm sorry, this is just kind of spreadsheety, but just to show growth over time. I feel that the way that things are happening, I wanted to talk about those other things first because I think that it shows we're having an immense amount of growth that isn't necessarily reflected yet in this data. This shows just percentage of our clients who were earning income and their average monthly wages for the last 4 years. You can see that the wages kind of increase probably as minimum wage increases. And we haven't had a huge jump, but like I said, I think that it's going to take a little bit of time for everything that we're doing to truly be reflected in the data. The growth is there and the placements are happening, and we're having so many programs who are starting to do more and more employment. So I expect that to kind of improve over the next few years. And then just as where we are as a regional center compared to the state. So the state average is at the top, and we fall kind of about 2/3, top third of the state as far as percentage of people who are working, their average annual wage, and number of people who are earning income. So overall, pretty on par. Like I said, though, I don't think this has really reflected all of the work that's happening now. I think that's going to take a couple of years for us to really appreciate that growth. But this is how everyone else is doing. Anything else? Other employment efforts that are happening is we, as of June 30th, of 2018, we had our first local partnership agreement was approved by the state and posted on the California Health and Human Services website. We were third in the state to have that approved, and our next move is to be expanding that to increase more of our educational partners and start to bring in community partners to really facilitate those handoffs from high school and transition into competitive and integrated employment settings. So a lot of work has been happening with that, and I'm really excited for, I think, what the outcomes of that. Again, the purpose of that is just to increase employment outcomes, and I think that we'll see that in the next few years.
Do you want to take questions, Rose?
Absolutely.
Does anyone have questions for Rose? In her new role as employment specialist that she's defined as she's grown into it.
Oh, the name of his book is Switched On. Told you it would come to me. It's there.
Does
Yeah.
the paid internship funding money come under earned income for people?
I don't know. To be honest, I actually just took my final exam for data analytics last night, so I have a lot of questions about this data. I don't know where it was sourced. I would imagine that it does, but I'm not sure.
It came up in conversation about something else with people's SSI benefits and how that impacts SSI. So I am curious about that because, yeah, it may not come up in this income particularly.
That's a good question.
When Tom gets here, he may know the answer to that.
Good point. Let's ask Tom. Yeah.
Is it your intention to evaluate RCB's results as per this chart against some of the more higher performing regional centers? Like NBRC, which is North Bay, they did 24%, and the average wage was less, and that sort of reflects location, I guess. But 24% per quarter is significantly higher. So is it your plan to sort of look for best practices?
I definitely talked to the other employment specialists about what is best practice. As far as comparison to other regional centers, I kind of try to stay away from that and just compare us to ourselves in the past. I think people are interested in this data, but again, it's not standardized, so we serve, I think, more clients than North Bay, so it's kind of, I don't know that it's necessarily comparable. Like the area is different, the number of clients is different, the resources are different. So I think it's just interesting to know, but I think that it's more important to kind of focus on, like you said, the best practices of how we're increasing that.
I think you'll see higher wages too in catchment areas that have a higher local minimum wage. GTRC's wages are higher, but their percentages are down because San Francisco's minimum wage is 15.
And
Yeah.
it's hard to compare different regional centers because we're all dealing with different geography, different ways that people are employed. Some places have more developed group employment that may come in to earn income. It's very hard to compare what people are doing just by those numbers. The other thing that's interesting that people may not know is we as a regional center have one rose for 22,000 folks. Far northern Redwood Coast, which is about 7,000 individuals, also has only had one employment specialist. So that's also something that we have to take into account.
We can't just clone.
Right, well,
I could use another one of me.
employment specialists, cultural specialists were all allocated to one per regional center. Not one per certain number of population, which is an interesting way that that's been done. Yeah, yeah.
And also, these numbers are only for that 1 year, and therefore we don't know if Far Northern may have had a higher percentage to start with, because they have fewer clients and they may, in their area, have a different culture in terms of the employers. They may have always had more clients employed. So it may not necessarily reflect a change with these new policies and procedures.
Rose,
Mhm.
I think another thing to mention, if you don't mind, and we discussed this a little bit in our transition team meeting. As I said, Rose, she's came into a new position and she's been defining it, and I think she's done a great job of creating some infrastructure, especially for regional center case managers. And you created some sort of online directory. Could you speak about that? Because I think
sure.
that's going to drive employment.
Yeah, definitely. So I created a tab in our case managers. They have a CM toolbox on our intranet where they can kind of go and get the forms that they need and information. And I created a tab just for employment resources. And so one of the things that's on there is just the employment resource guide. Sandy has the full Alameda County resource guide, and we have the one from Contra Costa. But when I was looking through it, I found that a lot of the employment stuff was kind of vague. And so not necessarily helpful for that on the ground, like if this person's looking for a job, who should I refer them to? So actually Bill Pelter really helps me with that. And so just so much gratitude to Bill for making those phone calls, but helps me put together a resource guide that just answers those questions as far as what type of employment they do. Do they do individual placements, group placements? Do they do paid internships, tailored day services? What languages do they speak? What area do they serve? And so we have that resource guide that I'm updating now continuously for our case management staff so that they can kind of have access to that. And I did my big reveal of that at the end of August, and I think that it was really well received. In that time, I feel like I've gotten a lot more just feedback about people trying to make employment referrals. I feel like that's facilitating the conversations. There's other resources on there to support them to kind of promote employment as they're having ID team meetings and talking with, especially transition, how they're going to move from school into adult services. And so I'm hoping that, yeah, as Sandy said, that's building infrastructure to support case managers and families to have helpful employment resources. So
When Tom gets here and he'll talk about the grants, you've heard him talk about those before. There are so many new agencies that are starting these services, tailored day services, the internships. So I think that for case managers, having that information will really build and help onboard to employment, competitive integrated employment.
yes, Irene.
Hi, I'm sorry I came in late.
Hi.
Can you tell me, the number, in the column that says quarterly number of consumers with earned income?
Mhm.
Does that include consumers who work through a school program and receive earned income? My son works 1 hour a week at most. He has earned income, that's reportable income, but I don't know that his number would be in regional center numbers. So
It
is
should.
this apart from school programs, or it includes?
It's inclusive if they're regional center clients and they're between 16 and 64, then it should be captured.
What was that?
If they're between the ages of 16 and 64, yes, it should be captured.
So some may be, like my son, 1 hour a week.
Mm-hmm.
in that number there.
Scott.
Are you finding the confusion about TDS and job development services and case managers? Like, is that still a thing? Is there still confusion over what TDS?
Bless you. I feel like we're kind of working through that. Taylor Day Services, I think, remains confusing. That was one of the things that I wanted to address with the Employment Resource Guide, is because Taylor Day Service is so flexible, it really can encompass a lot of services under those the three allowable categories. But that being said, just because they can be used, that doesn't mean that every program that's vendored is using them or has the capacity to. So I kind of was hoping to list that in the Employment Resource Guide if they use Taylor Day Services for job development or for post-secondary or for volunteer work. I'm seeing fewer questions, but that's just anecdotal. I don't have a statistic for that. I feel like it's becoming more common. As Sandy said, we have more Taylor Day Services providers. So I feel like we're kind of working through that. But I think there'll always be a little bit of confusion just because there's such variability. Yeah, Herb.
Okay, I got it. Regarding the minimum wage raises.
I can't really hear you. I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah, one that started pretty loud. Anyways, my concern has to do with minimum wage increases.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people in our society, in my situation, I'm an SDI. Is there any improvement of ideas of working on government increasing the minimum or the maximum increase or the maximum income allowed for individuals? So that they don't turn out to do what happened to me of losing a day of work.
Jude.
You want me to?
Oh, I'm sorry. Do you have the answer? I don't know.
Yes.
You can answer the question.
Yes, there's legislation, there continues to be federal legislation to raise the not only asset limit, but to increase the disregard. So you're deemed, there's a formula, which I can't remember, it's been too long, maybe Nanette can speak to this, but there's legislation to increase the income without detracting from the SSI payment. Does that make sense? And also
Yeah,
to
well, yeah,
increase the resource.
So there is a process being done of increasing the maximum allowance
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
for both categories.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions for Rose? Okay, thank you
All right,
very
thank you.
much.
Go back to the next stuff.
Hopefully you'll stick around a little bit.
Morning. Good morning, everyone. My name is Monique.
Oh, okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Monique Harris.
I was born in Philadelphia with cerebral palsy when I was young. I want to learn how to create my own style of art, giving my physical limitation and being able to use my hands.
I was born in Philadelphia with cerebral palsy. When I was young, I wanted to learn how to create my own style of art, given my physical limitations of being unable to use my hands.
I used to get our to get a regular job, but that was the school due to my learning disability.
I tried to get a regular job, but that was difficult due to my learning disability.
I worked for a little while, but need cheating and didn't get to be set up with a keyboard and keyboard. I also found that I didn't want to walk, tell me what to do.
I worked for a little while, but needed feeding, attendant care, and to be set up with a head wand and keyboard. I also found out that I don't want a boss telling me what to do.
When Bill felt the former assistant director of a building now offered me an opportunity to start my own business in a small business incubator. I jumped at the chance. I started communication different, technical communication board and education material.
When Bill Pelter, the former Assistant Executive Director of Ability Now Bay Area, offered me an opportunity to start my own business in a small business incubator, I jumped at the chance. I started Communication at Ease to make low-tech communication boards and educational materials.
As a businesswoman or a disability, I learned that most please things.
As a businesswoman with a disability, I learned that you must have 3 things.
First of all, you must have self-determination. You got to work for it. It's hard.
First of all, you must have self-determination. You gotta work for it. It is hard.
You have to be able to adapt. If one thing don't work, try another.
You have to be able to adapt. If one thing doesn't work, try another.
I start a communication board business and have it very slow. But then I found out I had a talent for art and started creating a graphic design business.
I took classes in business and then I started a communication board business. It happened, but it's very slow. But then I found out I had a talent for art and started Monique's Creations, a graphic design business.
Second, you have to have a passion for what you do. If you do not, it won't work. I like helping people. I do not want anyone with speech impediment to be ambitious within my.
Second, you have to have a passion for what you're doing. If you do not, it won't work. I like helping people. I do not want anyone with a speech impediment to be unable to speak their minds.
This is why I make communication work. You got to have passion in your
This is why I make communication boards. You gotta have passion in you.
and so I learned that in business you need lots of support. The reason center support me for attending care when I sell my part in the community of it. The department will pay for supplies, equipment for me, and ability now provide attendant care, manual labor.
And third, I learned that in business you need lots of support. Regional Center supplies my attendant care when I sell my products at community events. The Department of Rehab buys supplies and equipment for me, and Ability Now provides attendant care and manual labor.
What one of the business is not about money for me, but about my dreams coming reality. Thank you very much.
Running a business is not about money for me, but about my dreams becoming reality. Thank you, everyone.
You see your flowers. I'm still on my calendar. And if you want to see them, you can come talk to me or Bill. Thank you.
Okay, so you're not going to escape without a commercial. So, taking advantage of this great opportunity, there were some flyers going around that is the 2019 calendars that Monique has done calendars every year for about the last 4 or 5 years. And so those are opportunities to order those calendars. Also, Monique will be here during the day if you'd like to talk to her about it. Yes, Angel.
I ordered your flip calendar, your monthly calendar, which I loved a couple of years ago. And I see you only have the wall calendar.
No.
Are you going back to the monthly ones?
No, I got the monthly ones. It was on the flyer. It's the second.
So they might have run out, but we can get you connected to your 2019 calendar.
Yeah, I have it.
So this is, let me show this.
That,
This is,
that one,
Unique has an amazing color sense. So this is an example of the, at a glance,
Yeah.
glance.
that 103. That 103. Okay, three
There's
different.
3 different, images. So this is one of 3 different samples.
And then I have the flip calendar.
And then the flip calendar that Angel was talking about. Okay, Bob, let me walk over.
Oh, I can take it though.
Okay, so, okay, there's the Vanna White moment. Yeah, oh, yes, all right. So, is there anything else? Okay, so self-employment, yes, Mark.
Really quick, Monique, I have your piece in my office, and so I want to find out, are you going to be going online anytime soon to sell your items?
Well, yes. I got different websites.
Yes, there's a website and it's on the flyers. There's 2 flyers.
Oh, okay. Perfect.
And I will talk to you later.
And I will
Okay.
talk to you later. Ooh.
Tell Brandon and I for
So,
me,
there are
okay?
very few times that's fallen away.
No, I know, I always
Okay. Well done. So did we do it? Okay, so self-employment. First of all, it's how great to follow Rose's presentation that we're in, all of us are in a very exciting time for the people who work with us. That's school districts, that's programs, that's the regional center, that's all of us families. So why? Because of the booming economy in the Bay Area and all of the initiatives, Employment First, Workforce Initiative Opportunity Act. I could go on and on. These are amazing opportunities that all of us have advocated for years. Our ship has come in. So we're working hard to take advantage of that and really push the numbers that Rose showed you. Now, one area that we want to talk about, and Monique is early a champion of this, is self-employment. Now, before I say anything further, you may know, or this has come up in the news quite a bit, even wage employees without disabilities are finding they need to augment their monthly income with some form of entrepreneurism. Are they an Uber driver? Are they maybe an online task worker? You know, there are sites where, geez, if you want to identify photos or do research or process data, you could go on and work and then turn that processed work in and get some augmented income for you and your family. So self-employment is a much bigger world, if you will, than just an individual entrepreneur that's only going to do employment. So I just want to get that out there. But, so let's see, who is self-employment? So good for. So we have what we call the Cornerstone Microenterprise Program. We named it the Cornerstone because that Federal Department of Labor has a quote that says the cornerstone of the American dream is owning and operating a small business. So we took that to be the name of our program, and so Monique and a couple of others were our early entrepreneurs, and we all worked together as a team to develop this program. So who's it best for? As Monique described, individuals who may need personal care support during the day. Additionally, if they need medical support, so consumers who may have more advanced medical needs, this is a good opportunity for them. What's not up there also is somebody that may have stamina issues that may be a challenge to be in a typical regimented work environment. Consumers that are operating their own business and don't want to have a boss tell them what to do. And then for consumers who job code fading is not possible, or likely, maybe to say. So there is a program, I hope you know that there is a wonderful collaboration, it's about 2 years old, between, in the catchment area, between the providers and vendors in the Alameda County area and the Contra Costa vendors of the regional center. We've been meeting as the East Bay Employment Task Force, and we're all pushing hard to create the numbers that Rose has presented to you earlier today. We want to increase the number of our consumers in the workforce and, frankly, integrate into the community. And self-employment is also an aspect of that, as I mentioned before. Okay, so how does the program work? What can somebody entering the program expect? The first thing, it's true for wage employment. It's doubly true for self-employment. Discovery. Who are you? What are your talents and interests? What are your skills? What supports do you need? And really a deep dive into that to really work with that individual to start to understand who they are and to start to think about what possibilities are there for business activity. So at the most very basic level, a business is defined as an activity that generates enough income to cover its own expenses. Now you're going to say, but wait a minute, that's break even. You can do better than that in a bank account. So hopefully you're going to generate profit. So we work very hard on looking at business ideas, but looking at something that's feasible that will create an income stream and again, still match the criteria of what does this person, what are their talents and interests, and as Monique said a couple of times in her presentation, motivation is key. Some of us maybe have a 9-to-5 job, and sometimes you've had a great weekend, you watched all the sports events, and Monday morning is not your great shining moment of the week. So you're going to come in, you're going to work, and you're going to get through the day, and hopefully things are going to brighten up after your third cup of coffee. But in a business, you have to be motivated that every contact, everything you're doing is going to be a home run, or don't step up to the plate, because that's going to affect your income. So again, it's a very motivation-driven activity, but it's very rewarding. So we may look at, and Monique talked about assistive technologies as something we provide for at the center. So we put together a business plan. I couldn't stress enough how important benefits planning is for consumers who are either going for wage employment or self-employment. Self-employment is a little trickier, but not that much. So again, really knowing ahead of time what the expectations are for generated income and how that may affect your benefits. So what we do is a 2-year, 24-month projection that we believe on this activity, that based on our research, working with the consumer, that we think it's going to produce X amount per year. And that's how it's going to affect this person's benefits. So going into it with eyes open. And we may see that we may find ourselves at a go, no-go point, that we may have to step back and readjust the plan and so on, because we want it to be successful. We want the person to have the dignity of economic opportunity, but that evaporates quickly if, hey, my benefits just got blown up. So we don't want that. So again, really diving in on the benefits planning piece. And then it's assuming we get the green light, hey, we've got it all together, this is a feasible business, we're going to go ahead. We start the launch activities for the business that's doing all the things that any other business person would do. So if the only thing you get from me talking today, get this. The only difference between a person with a disability running a business and a person who doesn't have a disability running a business is only the disability specific support needs that one person needs. Everything else is the same. You still need a business bank account. You still establish a business name. You still need to get a permit from the city or county depending on the business you got to do. So that is the only difference. So again, it's an amazing opportunity. So we do a person-centered, strength-based program services at the center, and we really want to develop those skills. So I'm going to talk about somebody, but I won't mention her name early on when we were doing the business. And fair enough, we were all finding our way with it. But that one person said, well, what do you think I should do to the staff team? And we are often, our response to that is, well, what do you think you should do because it's your business? So again, it's really turning the volume up on empowerment and really getting that idea that this is yours, you're running it, we know you're going to be successful, but your decisions are the bedrock of whether this is gonna be a successful opportunity for you or not. We're here to support you in doing that.
Kim, just one more thing.
One more thing,
See this scarf?
see this scarf? Okay, so can I say something about that?
You can take
Okay,
it.
so this is an example,
Take
we,
it off.
again, part of the exciting times that we're in. All of the images that Monique creates are digital. She uses Photoshop to create the images. So because they're digital, we live in a time where images can not only be printed on paper, they can also be transferred to cloth. You could say, you can go to her website and say, geez, I like that image, but I'd like that on a coffee mug or a book bag or a scarf. And that's possible today. So again, this is another exciting opportunity.
Yeah.
So, is that okay? Okay, so one last thing I want to say. Assistive technology. We all know how quickly technology is moving. Technology is absolutely leveling the playing field for people with disabilities. You can have zero use of your hands and do everything all of us do on the computer. Everything. So again, that being said, that widens the field of opportunities in the area that I've just been talking about. So thank you. If there's questions, Monique and I are happy to answer.
Hey, Bill?
Yeah.
I see that you brought some other items. Are you selling those, Monique?
You can see them.
You can see them. Can he buy one?
If you always really want.
Do I get a commission there?
So other questions about self-employment? Steve?
Bill, how many consumers are in your Cornerstone program?
Currently, we have 8 consumers who are doing a business, and 1, 2, 3, 4 that are going through the early stages of development. And again, I probably should have said earlier, even though we're an adult program, there are some school districts that are looking at self-employment, exposing transition-age students to the concept of self-employment and what that may be as an opportunity for them, for the reasons I mentioned earlier. John?
Yes, sir. Even though self-employment can mean at various stages, what about for someone who decides that they'd be a one-man business studio doing contract work and on other projects? I know it's possible and done before, and how does a one-person contract work business apply to a self-employment?
Okay, well, somewhat in your question is part of the answer. A contract person, by definition, is self-employed to some degree. And so again, that person is out selling their services or their products to individuals in the community. So that, in a nutshell, is a self-employment model. And again, I'm glad you asked the question because there's many shades of self-employment. Again, and I think particularly in the Bay Area with all of the tech workers here is a really good example of that. So I think the thing that I would say, and pardon me for repeating it, benefits counseling is mission critical if you're getting public benefits. So regardless of the style of business that you're going to use, that counseling helps inform how you structure the business. So you may go full blast. You don't care about how it affects your business. You're going to go full bore and do that. That's great. But you're doing it with your eyes open and you understand the consequences. Or you may say, geez, I want to control how much I want to sell every month and I want to see if I can target my income at a certain level so as to have no or minimal effect on my benefits. So that's a little bit of control that you have as being self-employed. It's also true if you're selling merchandise. You can control how much inventory you have out for sale. Did I answer your question?
Yeah.
Thank you. Tom, did you have something? No. Okay.
how unique is Ability Now's program in the realm of self-employment and micro enterprise here in the Bay Area?
Well, we're the only one in the East Bay. Now, there are other programs that from time to time have done self-employment. Currently, we're the only one that's full on doing that. I don't know, I've heard, well, I would say in the far northern regional center, I know that there is a self-employment program, but that's the only one that I'm aware of in our area.
What do we have you vendored as?
You have us vendored as, give me a second. We're an enhanced day program and our vendor number is, I should have that off the top of my head.
But you're not TDS or?
No. No, we are PB 1141, but I will give you.
I'll go look it up, but
Any other questions for Bill or Monique? Okay, great, thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Tom's coming on.
Yep, okay.
What's up?
Okay, I'm gonna have to get your attention back. I know we took just like a 60-second break, but Tom's gonna talk about
We phrased it.
how should we phrase it?
Coming developments in employment collaboration, I think, is probably a good way to phrase it. So, my name is Tom Hines. I'm the Director of East Bay Innovations. We're employment services provider since 1999. And we were fortunate, along with Features Explored and Contra Costa ARC, to receive a multi-year grant from the Longs Foundation to move employment services forward in the East Bay. And that grant, and also a few years ago, we did a community conversation that was part of the grant that we have with the Garden Center. And the community conversations brought together about 90 folks who had a stake in employment for people with developmental disabilities, and included employers, school districts, unions, parents, consumers. Sandy was a big part of helping put that together. That created some momentum in talking about how our community could work together and move employment forward. Then the second activity, I think that was a contributor to bringing people together is part of Long's Grant. We had a training series for agencies that had the desire to be an employment service agency. Mostly, they were agencies that wanted to do tailor-made services and support employment. And then the Longs Foundation generously offered startup money to agencies that went through that training and got vendored by Department of Rehab and Regional Centers. So they got startup money to get up and going. So it used to be maybe 10 years ago, there were maybe 2 active supported employment agencies in Alameda County and just a few in Contra Costa County. All of a sudden, because rates were changing and increasing, and agencies were getting vendored, we all of a sudden had a good core of 7, 8, 9 active supported employment agencies that were pretty new. And we sort of coalesced that group and school districts and adult schools who were all involved in sort of developing programs together into this entity called the Employment Task Force, which Sandy, again, was a big part in starting it and fostering the whole thing, where we're going to meet, what the agenda was, and she recruited Bill and I to be co-chairs. And it meets, the East Bay Employment Task Force meets once a month, approximately, and we focus on lots of things. Rose tells us about new developments within the regional center system. We have adult schools that talk about new training programs that they're developing, sometimes in collaboration with adult service providers. Sometimes they're standalone training programs that are sector-based, that train people with developmental disabilities for certain sectors. We have K-12 districts involved. Then we have about 30, I'd say, participants or members that attend the group on a regular basis. And we rotate the meetings from here in San Leandro to Concord office and regional center. So it's really a both county collaboration. This has been going on for a couple of years, and the Longs Foundation generously stepped up again and offered money to have the organization spin off as its own nonprofit, which we thought was kind of a cool idea, and it opens up a lot of avenues of work and moving things forward that you can't really do it if you're not a standalone organization. In the Longs grant with the 3 agencies, ARC, Futures Explored, and my agency, separately we branded ourselves as a regional collaborative and called ourselves Hire Able. And we got money through the Longs Foundation to work with a media consultant called Full Court Press. And under Hire Able, we have a website. We put out lots of content to the media about hiring people with disabilities, placing op-eds that are written by employers. Futures Explored has done a lot of video content that's been pushed out to news outlets and also housed on the website. So Hire Able and Full Court Press has sort of built this identity for this regional collaboration. So our idea with the Longs grant and the East Bay Employment Task Force is have Hire Able become the East Bay Employment Task Force. So change the name. Hire Able is a little catchier than East Bay Employment Task Force. We would expand the membership, so it wouldn't be just the 3 agencies. We would expand it to all the service providers and schools and entities that want to be a part of the new entity. We've hired an executive director / consultant who you guys might know. Her name's Denise Curtright. She worked at DDS for many years as their main employment person. So she's really well versed in best practices, not only in California, but in other states. Denise is going to start in January. And potential activities of the group, of course, establishing nonprofit status and incorporating as a nonprofit. Building out a board that's representative of all the different constituencies that are part of the task force now. Also doing outreach to large employers that might have multi-sites and directing those employers to service providers that serve those geographic areas or who have are serving consumers that might be a fit for the jobs offered by those large employers. More media outreach, more work with Full Court Press and trying to just really put out there the benefits of hiring people and keeping that going. Also, the East Bay Employment Task Force, since its beginning, has hosted trainings on a number of topics. Benefits planning, as Bill said, is crucial. We've done one on Ticket to Work. There's been one on customized employment and discovery. There's been quite a few trainings going on, so we'll continue to do that. And also, in the spirit of fostering and sort of improving employment services in our area, we're talking about Hire Able developing its own sort of training curriculum for employment agencies, that if they go through the training curriculum and implement some of the best practices, there would be a Hire Able stamp of approval. You'd be a Hire Able certified agency, which someday we hope will mean something to other people. And let's see, what am I missing?
Well, while you think of it,
Yes.
may I just interject? I know Tom just matter-of-factly said that, we're going to hire Denise Cartwright. That's actually a huge deal. Thank you, Sarah. It's like, that's huge. I think that having a paid staff person fully focused on moving employment, doing job development, making the relationships in the business community will really result in better employment outcomes. So it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, Denise is great, and those of you who haven't experienced Denise, if you're part of the task force and you're going to come to the meeting, she's really knowledgeable and very down to earth. She's a former provider of employment services, so she really gets it, what it's like to sort of be on the ground. But she's also a really good policy person, so down the line, you know, the organization could engage in policy activities. We also are thinking of different things, like maybe Hire Able becomes an employment network under the Ticket to Work program. And since that's a hard thing for individual agencies to get set up as an employment network, maybe Hire Able is the employment network that people can use when their own consumers are eligible for Ticket to Work milestone payments, which is a pretty low bar. It's like $1,100 a month in wages, and then you're sort of in the Ticket to Work realm where you can receive incentive payments from Social Security, but it's a big lift to be an employment network. So we think maybe Hire Able could be an employment network, work with the different agencies and split the milestone payments with the agencies. So the agencies get a little bit more money, there's not anything left on the table. And Hire Able, you know, we have to think of a revenue stream that's going to support the organization over time. So this could be one idea of a revenue stream. I think that's pretty much it. Any questions? There was a question about paid internship wages affecting benefits. Yeah, any wages that a person earns would affect people's SSI and SSDI would need to be recorded.
Tom, what is the scope, the geographical scope of this new entity?
Right now, it would be Alameda and Contra Costa County, and you know, maybe agencies around the fringe, those two areas.
The East Bay Employment Task Force, as you know, Stephen, started as an initiative of the Alameda County Data Council and then grew to Contra Costa, but was really fueled by Tom's efforts and the Longs Foundation grant money to really help agencies with startup funding, etc. So this is just carrying it to a higher level, definitely.
Yeah, I think the other thing I forgot to add is back in the old days when there was a lot of employment services providers, sometimes we used to get into little food fights about who was approaching which employer, and you know, we got there first and this Safeway is our Safeway and you guys can't go there and all that stuff. So when you get more employment service providers doing this, there's going to be issues that come up around, you know, how do you fulfill an employer's needs in a way that makes sense and is streamlined and we're not fighting with each other, or this Hire Able would be a way to sort of work that out and systematically look at what jobs are out there that maybe agencies can't fill, and be a place where other agencies could refer clients, or maybe the job is referred to another agency because it makes more sense geographically, or it's a way to sort of work those issues out behind the scenes so that we're not stumbling in front of employers, you know, and we're doing this in a more systematic way.
And I think coordinated collaboration. I think that's key to really building regional employment outcomes.
Yeah. Some of the partnerships that are pretty exciting, there are a lot of adult schools actually, Pleasanton, Mount Diablo, Oakland Adult School, Castro Valley Adult School, I'm going to be missing somebody, that are involved in collaborations with service providers around project search, or other training pipelines. So Castro Valley has a dietary aid training program that helps people learn kitchen skills with the hopes that they might work in long-term care facilities, so hospitals or assisted living facilities. I think Mount Diablo is also developing a direct support professional course that's geared towards people with developmental disabilities who want to work supporting other people with disabilities. So that's going on. We're also involved, Futures Explored and EBI are involved in a grant with the Workforce Development Boards of Alameda County, which has been Latoya's been at almost every one of our meetings. And that's really unusual. That's the WIOA world, the one-stop world. And there's been, through WIOA, there's been requirements that the Workforce Development Boards collaborate more and work with populations that have barriers to employment. And one of those most significant populations they have to work with is people with disabilities. So we're under a grant that comes through Department of Labor to help place people with disabilities in jobs, and our collaborator is the Alameda County Workforce Development Board. So it's sort of like opened up these other avenues too, and other potential funding streams to providers.
Now, she spoke, I missed the last employment task force meeting as it was my moving day, but do you want to talk about, I know she talked about legislation, but I haven't heard the outcome of that. She had a couple of announcements to make at that meeting.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the legislation
She didn't mention
was. Yeah, not,
Okay.
others who were there might remember. I can't remember what Latoya said about that legislation.
Okay, the Workforce Development Board, it's under the auspices of the Alameda County Social Services Agency, and they have their own legislative council, as you've heard me talk about healthcare services, and they were motivated to carry some legislation in regards to helping employment outcomes. I thought that's what she was going to talk about.
Yeah, I'm not sure she got into the details of it. But the things that are going on with the workforce development boards are that the one-stops are funding training for people with disabilities, like in some of the adult school situations. The one-stops have the ability, they call them individual training accounts, to pay for training for people going through training programs. So there's openings there where different funding streams are coming into training people that we serve for jobs. They also, the workforce development boards also hold employer engagement events, which they're talking about including disability agencies in, where they have employers who are looking to hire people who they have regular contact with, and they wish to connect us with those employers too. So there's a lot of good things that are happening out of that particular collaboration.
Any other questions for Tom?
I have one. This is related to SSDI. Is this an appropriate time to ask about that?
I can try and answer it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a son with a disability, and he's going to be moving to SSDI starting in February.
Yeah.
And I know there's differences between SSI and SSDI.
Big.
I'm familiar with SSI because I've been doing that for the last 5 years or so. But SSDI, you have to keep track of their wages. Do you have to do it in a monthly account like you do with SSI? And do you have to still keep track of how much money they have in a savings account?
Is he going to be SSDI only, or is he going to be dual?
Just SSDI.
So with SSDI, you don't, the $2,000 threshold doesn't apply.
Okay.
I think it's always smart to report wages to Social Security. What happens with SSDI is you're allowed to make over what they call substantial gainful activity, which is about $1,100 for a certain amount of time. And then they count those number of months. I forget what they are, 9 months or, and then you're on an extended period of eligibility where if you make over $1,100 a month, they might stop your check for that month. But if you go under $1,100 a month, you get your check. Now, usually Social Security is not that adept at making changes in real time. So that's one of the reasons to keep reporting to them, so that they keep track and they don't sort of find out in arrears and then hit you with a big overpayment. Then eventually there is a cliff that you stop getting your SSDI if you make over $1,100 a month over a certain period of time. What I should do is give you Dick Stein's contact information. He's on our staff. He's a certified benefits planner, and he could help you figure out that landscape. But SSDI is really different than SSI.
Yeah.
SSI, you can make quite a bit of money and still stay at least in connection if you're not getting cash benefits with Medi-Cal. SSDI is a lot trickier because you can really fall off after a period of time, and that's a real decision point that people have to, consider. Do they want to, make money and go off of SSDI, run the risk of, if you lose a job, not being able to come back on because you've established a work history, or do you want to keep your wages under the threshold? Now, we have a lot of people in my agency who either have SSDI only or they have both SSDI and SSI. A lot of people really like SSDI because you get Medicare. Medicare is an easy way to get Senior Advantage through Kaiser. So if, we have a lot of people who are really connected to their health benefits and their doctor, and they want to keep their SSDI whole just for that reason. There's a form called an 821 form through Social Security. So is it your son?
Mm-hmm.
If your son's working in a job and he gets any job coaching from an agency, or the employer has done any sort of accommodations around his speed of work, the 821 report is a way to put a value on either the job coaching, or if the employer's made some accommodation for your son's performance that he would normally make for a non-disabled person. The 821 form then places a value on the job coaching, and that sometimes can theoretically, in Social Security's eyes, put you below the $1,100 a month. So we have people who use that 821 report, which requires us as the Employment Service Agency to really keep track of job coaching hours and to make sure that they match what we said in the 821 report. Because I don't know if I'm making any sense.
So you are, yeah. All information, new information, thank you.
It's all kind of tricky, when you get into SSDI territory.
Okay, one last question before we move on to Nana.
I can give you a correction. It's 1180.
1180.
Because I am one of the individuals that have been through this.
Yes.
I could talk to you after.
Okay.
Good, thanks.
Great.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't have a question. I just wanted to insert a quick plug. Subscribe, follow Hire Able on Facebook if you want to see all of their awesome stories, outcomes, some of the things that they put out.
Great idea.
Highly recommend.
Thanks. You want to stay up here just in case?
Oh,
Thank you, Nanette. Nanette needs to be mic'd now. She's our last speaker.
the mics are broken.
Oh, they are?
Do you need to use this one?
Uh-oh.
We might have to switch out.
Okay,
Yeah,
we're
that's
gonna switch a minute. Well, this is a critical filming. As I mentioned before, Nanette is from, she is the Tri-Valley SELPA director. Hello. We're just gonna fix some technical problems.
I'm here to help too, you know.
Thank you.
Versus our second higher technician.
Good morning.
My name is Janet Gray, and I am the Senior Director for the Tri-Valley SELPA. And the Tri-Valley SELPA includes Livermore Valley, Pleasanton Unified School District, Sunol Glen, and Mountain House, and a part of the Alameda County Office of Education. And basically what we do is that we make sure that students with disabilities have appropriate programs to support their needs. So I was invited to come, but I think I failed to confirm with Sandy that I would actually be here. So I showed up, and I think she just added me to the program. So
And we're thrilled. Because you know you need that connection from transition to adult service.
right. So I'm really excited to be here. I see some former students that I had a few years ago, Marissa, a former parent that I worked very closely with. So I'm really excited to be here to let you know a little bit about it. I'm not an expert in workability or transition, but I can give you some information as what's happening within our SELPA, especially Pleasanton Unified School District. As most of you know, that we do have our adult transition students that we work with from the age of 18 to 22. That is the responsibility of the district to provide continued services. We do have programs in all of our K-12 districts, which is Dublin, Livermore, and Pleasanton, where we have a special education teacher along with some paraprofessionals that work very closely with the students, and they come up with very creative ways to support students with future employment and also transition into the adult world. We also, Pleasanton Unified School District also has a Workability One grant. It is our only district within the Tri-Valley SELPA that has the Workability One grant that is funded by the state of California. And with the Workability Grant, they serve students that are 14 years old to the age of 22. However, those that get subsidized minimum wage is those students that are 16 through 22. And they work with our paraprofessionals that go out with them to help them train on different jobs like club sport, courtyard, hotel, Cost Plus, different restaurants in the Tri-Valley area. And these students actually get hands-on experience working in real life along with a job coach. But one of the most exciting things that we have, and I think Tom mentioned this about Pleasanton Unified School District, their adult program. This year we have an adult internship program that has just started this year. Pleasanton Unified School District is very excited about this program. And they work with adults with developmental disabilities. They work to help them with employment skills, also along with employment skills, some academic skills. And this is a partnership with the Department of Rehab, Regional Center of the East Bay for referrals for these adults with disabilities, and also they also help with funding. So it is a paid internship for 8 months. These students are assigned to jobs that they're interested in. For instance, all of these jobs are within our district office. It could be human resources, it could be our graphics department, whatever the students or the adults' interest is what they try to assign them to. So they work 4 hours, 4 days a week in a job, and then they also do some academic skills where they're actually working with a special education teacher to support them in their employment. The good news about this is that they create a portfolio of where they started, and then by the end of the 8-month term, they can see how much growth that they've had over the time. And this is to help support them with transition to future employment and future jobs. So that's pretty much all that I have. I don't know if you have specific questions about what's happening within Tri-Valley around transition to employment or around what's happening actually in Pleasanton Unified with our program. Yes.
What happens if you have a transition person who's been out there a long time that's over 22, in their mid-30s, and so they are lost in the system and they don't like where they are, they want to make themselves better, and they're older than 22 years old?
So the good news about this new internship program that they have that's associated with our adult program, anybody can apply, whatever the age is. Whatever, you could be 64, 65. If you're interested in this program, you can actually apply. I think this year they have 5 interns that are varying ages, and I want to say they all are over the age of 22.
Can I add something? I am absolutely thrilled to hear that there are paid workability positions within the school district. Are there any other school districts in Alameda County that are doing that?
You know, I applauded the director over this program because it is very unique that a school district, along with the bargaining units, will allow for other agencies or even our own students to come in because, as you know, they say they're taking jobs away. But Pleasanton Unified School District, with open arms, welcomed this program, and the students so far have been very successful. The adults, I keep referring to them as students, but the adults, yes.
See, Dublin School District also has a workability program, and I used to work in the Pleasanton.
Okay. And I think the difference is that Pleasanton has the grant, but there are also other workability programs where the district is funding it. So I mentioned Pleasanton because they have the state grant. Yes.
Is Lodi Unified School District? Or do they have
Lodi is more out towards the Sacramento area, so they're not a part of the Tri-Valley SEPA.
About there?
Very little, yeah, very little.
That's it. Well, I just want to say thank you for coming. I did workability. I started in a workability program about 20 years ago with Fremont Unified, and I started talking about the school district and jobs, and you made it happen out there. So
Well, I didn't make it happen. I'm just giving you the information. It's just our board welcomed this program, and we're very excited.
I think that's great. Oh, would you mention, Nanette, the Tri-Valley Transition Fair that's coming up, and it's kind of grown into a collaboration?
Yes. The date hasn't actually been set yet, but last year was our first year. Our CAC, where our group of parents, Community Advisory Committee, we started our very first transition fair, which was a huge success. And now we're combining the transition fair with, and I can't think of the other agency right now, it slipped my mind, but we're combining the two fairs so that it could be even more accessible for our parents and for our students who are interested in what's happening and what different agencies are in our communities.
Is this at all related to the fair that took place at the Senior Center in Pleasanton?
It is. So it was the RAD program, the recreational program out there that would sponsor it, and the Alameda County Duty Council and other organizations contributed to it. But I think Carolyn Murphy in particular
Yes.
thought that it should be a collaboration and why do 2 separate ones. So I imagine it's going to be a
Yes.
fantastic fair in the Tri-Valley.
Yes, we had our first CAC meeting where Carolyn came to plead her case on why the two should be combined, and the committee did agree that we would combine it. So it's in the planning stages, and typically we try to have it in January because a lot of our families want to know what programs are available for their students in the summer. And this past year, we had about 25 vendors to come and set up booths, and our families took away a lot of very informative information for their students.
Well, I think there's some wonderful things going on in the Tri-Valley. Thank you very much, Nanette.
Thank you.